council chamber hummed with the usual pre-session chatter, a symphony of clicks, whistles, and guttural rumbles that echoed off the obsidian walls. I settled my 4 primary limbs into my designated seat, the specially designed cushion accommodating my thorax with practiced ease. My name is Vectrin Qual, and I've served on the Galactic Species Assessment Board for 32 cycles. I thought I'd seen everything. I was wrong. Order, order. High Arbiter Melkos slammed his crystallization staff against the floor, the sound cutting through the noise like a plasma blade through butter. The assembled representatives fell silent, compound eyes, sensory stalks, and various optical organs all turning toward the presentation platform at the center of the chamber. Today's session concerns Species Designation File 7492 Delta, Melkos announced, his voice carrying that pompous tone he reserved for what he considered important matters. The bipedal mammals from the 3rd planet of the Sol system, common designation, humans. A collective groan rippled through the chamber. Another bipedal species. How terribly original. I flexed my mandibles in what passes for a yawn among my kind. Bipeds were a dime a dozen in the galaxy. 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head, usually aggressive, almost always convinced they were special. The formula was as predictable as a Torquelian mating dance. The preliminary assessment team has returned with their findings, Melkos continued, gesturing toward a nervous-looking Plixian named Horvash, who scuttled toward the central display. Researcher Horvash, if you would present your observations. Horvash's eye stalks twitched as he activated the holographic display. An image materialized above the platform. A human female, average height by their standards, standing in what appeared to be some kind of observation chamber. She wore simple clothing, a gray fabric covering her torso and lower limbs. Her facial features were relaxed, almost bored. This, Horvash began, his voice quivering slightly, is Subject 47. Designation: Marina Volkov. She volunteered for our standard predator response assessment. Get on with it, rumbled Gorthax, the Krellin representative, whose 6 arms were already crossed in impatience. What's her threat rating? Light? Moderate? Are we looking at another herbivore species pretending to be tough? Horvash's eye stalks drooped. That's the thing. We're not entirely sure. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Not sure? The assessment protocols had been refined over millennia. You expose a species to a controlled predator scenario, measure their response, and categorize accordingly. It was basic xenobiology. Explain, Melkos demanded, his tone sharp. Horvash manipulated the controls, and the hologram shifted to show a recording. The timestamp indicated it was from 6 solar cycles ago. The human, Marina, stood in the center of the testing arena, a sterile white space, about 20 meters across. The observation team had assembled behind reinforced barriers, standard procedure for predator assessments. We began with Protocol Theta, Horvash explained, a Category 2 predator from Nexolon Prime, the Ravager class, 3 meters tall, armor-plated hide, venomous claws, territorial, aggressive, highly motivated by food stimulus. I leaned forward despite myself. Category 2 predators were no joke. We'd lost researchers to those things during the initial classification surveys. The recording showed a door sliding open at the far end of the arena. The Ravager emerged, its 6 legs carrying its massive bulk with surprising speed. Its triple-jawed mouth opened, revealing rows of serrated teeth that could shred durasteel. A low, bone-rattling growl echoed from the speakers. Marina Volkov looked up from examining her fingernails. "Oh," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the audio feed. "Hey there, buddy," the Ravager charged. "Now, here's where it gets interesting." Every species we'd tested showed one of three responses: fight, flight, or freeze. The prey species would run or collapse. The predator species would attack or display aggressive posturing. It was all very predictable, very neat, very categorizable. Marina did none of those things. She raised her arms above her head and stretched. A long, languid stretch that pushed her arms up toward the ceiling, arched her back, and was accompanied by a yawn that seemed entirely inappropriate, given that 3 metric tons of murder was barreling toward her at 40 kilometers per hour. The Ravager stopped. Not slowed down. Stopped. Dead in its tracks, all 6 legs skidding on the smooth floor, claws scrabbling for purchase. "What in the void?" I muttered. The recording continued. The Ravager, one of the galaxy's most feared predators, took 3 steps backward. Its head lowered, body language shifting from aggressive to— was that confusion? Fear? Marina finished her stretch with a satisfied sigh, rolling her shoulders in a way that produced an audible popping sound through the audio feed. "Sorry. Was sitting too long in the waiting room. You know how it is. Everything gets all stiff and— Are you okay?" She addressed this last question to the Ravager, which had now retreated to the far corner of the arena and was making a high-pitched whining sound I'd never heard from the species before. "Subject appears to have achieved dominance without aggressive display," Horvash narrated unnecessarily. We could all see what was happening, or rather, what wasn't happening. "This must be a malfunction," Counselor Thress announced, her vocal sac vibrating with skepticism. The Ravager was ill, improperly conditioned. Something. "That's what we thought," Horvash admitted. "So we tried again. Different subject, different predator." The hologram switched to a new recording. Different human, this time a male designated Marcus Okafor. Larger than Marina, more muscular, but wearing the same neutral expression. "Protocol Epsilon," Horvash continued. "Category 3 predator. Vorxian slasher. Highly intelligent, pack-hunting predator. 4 limbs, each tipped with monomolecular claws. Can calculate attack trajectories in real time. Successfully hunted to extinction 2 separate spacefaring species before containment protocols were established." The chamber fell silent. Category 3 predators were restricted to military research facilities. The fact that they'd used one for a civilian assessment was concerning. The Vorxian slasher emerged from its containment unit, and even through the recording I felt my respiratory spiracles tighten. The creature was beautiful in the way a singularity is beautiful. Perfect. Deadly. Inevitable. Its black carapace reflected the arena lights like living shadow. Those claws, each one capable of splitting atoms under the right conditions, extended from its limbs with barely a whisper. It saw Marcus Okafor and went perfectly still. The predator's calculation mode. Assessing. Planning. Preparing to strike. Marcus reached up and scratched the back of his neck. Just a casual gesture. The kind any being might make when slightly uncomfortable. His arm extended, muscles in his shoulder and upper limb flexing as his fingers worked at some apparent itch below his hairline. The Vorxian slasher retreated so fast it left scorch marks on the floor. "By the ancients," someone whispered behind me. The recording showed Marcus looking genuinely confused as the slasher, this apex predator that had driven 2 species to extinction, pressed itself against the far wall and refused to approach within 10 meters. "Maybe it was sick too," suggested Counselor Brevik, though her tone suggested she didn't believe it herself. Horvash's eye stalks drooped even further. "We tested 23 different predator species. Categories 1 through 4. Different human subjects. Same result every time. The moment the humans performed any normal movement, especially stretching, reaching overhead, or extending their limbs, the predators backed away. "That's impossible," I said, hearing my own voice break the professional silence I usually maintained. Predator response is hardwired. Fight or flight. You don't just teach a ravager to fear a prey species because they stretch their arms. "That's what we thought," Horvash said quietly. "So we brought in the exobiology team. They wanted to examine human physiology more closely, understand what we were missing." The hologram shifted again, now showing a medical bay. A human female designated Lisa Park lay on an examination table, dressed in a medical gown. She looked relaxed, chatting pleasantly with the medical staff. "Standard physical assessment," Horvash narrated. "Everything appeared normal. Bipedal locomotion, bilateral symmetry, endoskeletal structure, carbon-based biochemistry. Nothing remarkable." The medical technician, Aquarian with excellent credentials, began the flexibility assessment. "Please raise your arms above your head," he instructed. Lisa complied, lifting her arms in a smooth, easy motion. Every predator in the observation room, separated from the exam area by reinforced barriers and force fields, went absolutely berserk. Acrylic Hunter smashed itself against its containment until it knocked itself unconscious. A Thorian Ripper, sedated for the observation, woke up and tried to burrow through the floor. A juvenile Void Stalker, barely 6 months old and raised in captivity, teleported itself into the waste disposal system. The medical bay was evacuated in 47 seconds. "We don't understand," Horvash admitted, and I could hear genuine fear in his voice now. "There's something about human movement, specifically when they extend their limbs, that triggers a primal fear response in predator species. Not all species, mind you. Prey and neutral species don't seem affected. But predators, they react like the humans are the most dangerous thing they've ever encountered." "Have you asked the humans about this?" High Arbiter Melkos asked, leaning forward in his seat. "We tried." Horvash pulled up another recording, this one showing Marina Volkov sitting in an interview room across from a xenopsychologist. This is from the debriefing session. The xenopsychologist, trying to maintain professional composure despite his obviously rattled state, addressed Marina carefully. "During the assessment, you performed a stretching motion. Can you explain why you chose that particular action?" Marina looked at him like he'd asked her to explain breathing. "I was stiff, sitting in that waiting room for like 3 hours. My shoulders were killing me. So I stretched. Is that a problem?" "And you weren't trying to intimidate the predator?" "The what? Oh, the big lizard thing? No, I didn't even think about it. I just needed to stretch." She demonstrated again, raising her arms overhead in that same casual motion that had sent a Category 2 predator fleeing. The xenopsychologist flinched. Marina noticed and lowered her arms. "Are you okay? You look kind of pale." "Well, paler. Is that offensive? I don't know what color you're supposed to be." "I'm fine," the xenopsychologist lied. "Please continue. Do humans often stretch in threatening situations?" "Threatening? I mean, I guess it looked scary, but it was behind that barrier thing, right? You guys weren't going to actually let it eat me?" There was a long pause on the recording. "Right?" Marina repeated, her eyes widening slightly. "Of course not," the xenopsychologist assured her quickly. "The barriers are completely secure." "But you weren't afraid?" Marina shrugged, another gesture that made the xenopsychologist twitch. "Should I have been? Look, I do yoga 3 times a week. I'm flexible. I stretch. That's just what I do. Are you telling me that's weird? The recording ended. The council chamber sat in stunned silence. Finally, Gorthax spoke, his voice unusually subdued. What's their threat classification? That's why we're here, Horvash said. By all conventional metrics, humans are Category 4 prey species. Weak bite force, no natural weapons, relatively fragile skeletal structure, poor sensory range. They should be easy prey for dozens of predator species. But, Melkos prompted, but every predator we've tested treats them like they're Category 6 apex predators, and the humans have no idea why. I felt my mandibles click together in thought. Category 6. That was reserved for species like the devourer swarms of the Outer Rim, creatures that consumed entire planets. We were comparing humans to galaxy-level threats because they stretched their arms. There must be something we're missing, I said. Some chemical signal, some pheromone, some evolutionary marker that predators recognize, and we don't. We thought that too, Horvash replied. The exobiology team has been working around the clock. They've found nothing. No unusual pheromones, no subsonic emissions, no quantum-level disturbances. When a human stretches, they're just stretching. But somehow, every natural predator in the galaxy sees it as a threat display so severe that it overrides hunting instincts. Counselor Thress spoke up, her voice thoughtful now. What about their own planet? Surely they evolved alongside predators. How did those species react? Horvash manipulated the display, bringing up footage from Earth. We investigated that. Turns out, humans have no natural predators, not anymore. They had several during their evolutionary history. Large felines, canines, bears. But humans hunted them to near extinction, domesticated them, or pushed them into isolated habitats. That's not unusual, Gorthax noted. Plenty of species eliminate their competition. True, Horvash agreed, but here's what's interesting. The predators on Earth that still exist, they avoid humans obsessively. Not because of tools or technology. Predators learned to fear humans before they even developed agriculture. There are documented cases of apex predators on Earth, creatures that could easily kill a human, choosing to flee rather than attack even when the human is injured or alone. A new image appeared. A massive brown bear, easily 3 times the size of a human, backing away from a human male who was doing nothing more than standing with his arms slightly extended. This was captured by human researchers studying wildlife, Horvash explained. The bear is a prime specimen, healthy, well-fed, defending its territory. The human accidentally wandered too close. Watch what happens. The human raised his arms, not in a threatening way, just a natural gesture of surprise. The bear turned and ran. That bear could have killed him in seconds, Horvash said quietly. But it ran. They almost always run. This is insane, I muttered. Are you suggesting that humans are some kind of, what? Galactic boogeyman? The species that predators instinctively fear? We're not suggesting anything, Horvash said. We're reporting observations, and those observations indicate that despite all physical evidence to the contrary, humans register as apex predators to actual apex predators. High Arbiter Melkos stood, his posture rigid. This council cannot make a determination without further investigation. Horvash, continue your research. I want answers. How can a species be simultaneously prey and predator? What are we not seeing? There's one more thing, Horvash said hesitantly. We brought in a human consultant, an expert in their own evolutionary biology, Dr. Emma Rhodes. She had a theory. Well, Melkos demanded, share it. Horvash pulled up an image of a human female with graying hair and sharp eyes. Dr. Rhodes suggested we look at human persistence hunting techniques. She says humans evolved as pursuit predators. So, Gorthax rumbled, lots of species pursuit hunt? Not like humans, Horvash said, his voice dropping. Humans don't chase prey until they catch it. They chase it until it dies of exhaustion. A human can track a prey animal for days, sometimes weeks, never stopping, never resting, just following, until the prey's heart gives out from stress and fatigue. The chamber went very quiet. Dr. Rhodes said something that troubled me, Horvash continued. She said that when a human stretches, when they extend their limbs and loosen their muscles, they're preparing to move. And on Earth, when a prey animal sees a human preparing to move, preparing to chase, the smart ones run. Because once a human starts chasing you, they never stop. They follow you across continents if necessary. They track you through water, over mountains, through environments that should kill them. They're not the fastest predator. They're not the strongest. But they're the most relentless. He paused, letting that sink in. Dr. Rhodes hypothesized that predator species, real predators, recognize this at some instinctive level. When they see a human stretch, see those limbs extending, those muscles preparing, some ancient part of their brain screams a warning. That thing is getting ready to hunt. And once it starts, it will never, ever stop. I felt a chill run down my thorax, despite the chamber's comfortable temperature. That's why they run, Horvash finished. Not because humans look dangerous, but because somewhere in the evolutionary memory of every predator species that ever existed, there's a warning about the hunters that don't stop. The ones that just keep coming. The ones that stretch their arms and start moving, and then never stop moving until their prey is dead. The recording started again, showing Marina Volkov one more time, performing that simple stretch. Arms overhead, back arched, completely casual. But now, watching it with new context, I saw something different. The way her shoulders rolled, the slight crouch in her posture afterward, the loose, ready stance. She wasn't just stretching, she was preparing, getting ready to move, to run, to chase if necessary. And every predator in the galaxy recognized it for what it was, the calm before the hunt. "This is absurd," Counselor Brevik announced, breaking the heavy silence. Her vocal sac pulsed with agitation. "You're telling me the entire galactic community should fear a species because they stretch? Because they might chase something? We have starships, plasma weapons, singularity bombs. What are they going to do? Jog at us menacingly?" Several counselors chittered in nervous agreement, but I noticed none of them looked particularly convinced by their own laughter. High Arbiter Melkos raised one appendage for silence. "Dr. Rhodes, is she still available for consultation?" Horvash nodded, his eye stalks bobbing. "She's waiting in conference room 7. She insisted on speaking to the full council." "Then bring her in," Melkos commanded. "Let's hear what the humans have to say about themselves." 2 guards, both heavily armed Krell warriors, escorted Dr. Emma Rhodes into the chamber. I'd seen thousands of species walk through those doors over my career. Usually, new species entering the council chamber showed some combination of awe, fear, or excitement. The galaxy's ruling body, after all. The collected wisdom of 400 civilizations. Emma Rhodes looked mildly annoyed, like she'd been interrupted during something important. She was shorter than Marina, her hair tied back in a simple configuration, wearing practical clothing with multiple pockets. As she walked to the central platform, I noticed several counselors shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The Krell guards maintained a 5-meter distance, their weapons held just a little too tightly. "Thank you for joining us, Dr. Rhodes," Melkos began diplomatically. "We've been reviewing the assessment data regarding your species." "Yeah, Horvash filled me in," Emma said, her tone conversational. "You're all freaked out because Marina stretched in front of a dinosaur and it ran away." "That is one way to phrase it," Melkos replied stiffly. "We're trying to understand the discrepancy between your species' physical capabilities and the response you elicit from predator species." Emma smiled, and I noticed Gorthax's 3 hearts skip a beat. It wasn't a threatening smile, just friendly, but something about it made my spiracles constrict. "Can I ask you all a question first?" Emma said, not waiting for permission. "How many of you have actually met a human before this assessment program started?" Silence. "Right, that's what I thought," Emma continued. "So you're judging us based on physical specs. Bite force, claw length, armor plating, that sort of thing. Am I close?" "Those are standard assessment criteria," Melkos confirmed. "They've proven reliable across millions of species evaluations." "Sure, for normal predators," Emma agreed. "But here's the thing. Humans aren't normal predators. We're not predators at all, actually. We're something worse." "Worse?" I heard myself ask. Emma turned those sharp eyes toward me, and I understood why the Ravager had run. Not because she looked dangerous, because she looked patient. Infinitely patient. "We're omnivores," she explained. "We eat everything. Plants, animals, fungi. We're not picky. But our ancestors, way back, they figured out something clever. Instead of evolving to be faster or stronger than prey, they evolved to be more stubborn." She started walking around the platform, her movements loose and casual. Every predator species representative in the chamber tracked her movement with unconscious intensity. "Let me tell you about my ancestor, some guy living 40,000 years ago on the African plains," Emma said. "He's hungry. He sees an antelope. Now, that antelope is faster than him, stronger than him, has better senses. Any sane predator looks at that situation and thinks, not worth it." "But humans aren't sane," Emma continued, that smile returning. "My ancestor doesn't think, I can't catch that. He thinks, not yet. So he starts walking toward it. The antelope runs. Good. It's supposed to run. He keeps walking. Hours pass. The antelope stops to rest. My ancestor appears on the horizon. The antelope runs again." She paused, letting the image sink in. "This goes on for hours, then days. The antelope is fast, but speed costs energy. Running costs energy. Fear costs energy. And my ancestor? He just walks. Steady pace. Not running, not sprinting, just walking. Always there, always coming, always visible on the horizon." Counselor Thress made a small, distressed sound. "The antelope's body starts breaking down," Emma said, her voice matter of fact. "Stress hormones flood its system. Its heart rate never drops. It can't eat because my ancestor won't let it stop long enough. Can't sleep. Can't rest. Just run, rest 5 minutes, see the human coming, run again, for days. Eventually, the antelope's heart gives out. It just stops. My ancestor walks up, and dinner is served. He didn't need claws, didn't need speed, didn't need venom or armor or anything exotic. He just needed to not stop." The chamber had gone deathly quiet. "That's what you're seeing when Marina stretched," Emma explained. "Every real predator on Earth, the ones who survived alongside us, learned a simple rule. When a human starts getting loose, starts getting ready to move, you run. You run far, and you run fast, and you don't look back. Because if you don't, if you let them start the chase, they'll follow you until one of you dies. And it won't be them. This is madness, Brevik protested weakly. You're describing extinction-level hunting behavior. Your species should have collapsed your entire ecosystem. We nearly did, Emma admitted cheerfully. Wiped out most of the megafauna on every continent we reached. Woolly mammoths, giant sloths, cave bears, dire wolves. We didn't mean to. We were just hungry and persistent. Bad combination. Gorthax leaned forward, his massive frame tense. But you have weapons now. Technology. Why would predators still fear you? Emma's expression turned thoughtful. That's the weird part. We figured that out recently, actually. Did some studies with Earth predators, measured their responses. Turns out, the fear isn't learned. It's genetic. Baked into predator DNA after thousands of generations of learning that humans are bad news. She pulled a data tablet from one of her pockets. Got some research here if you want the details, but basically, predator brains have a threat assessment system. Prey species register as food. Other predators register as competitors or threats. But humans, we register as something else entirely. Existential danger. The kind of threat you don't fight. You just run and hope it loses interest. But why stretching specifically? I asked, genuinely curious now. Why that gesture? Because it means we're getting ready, Emma said simply. Think about it. You're a predator. You see prey that looks weak, slow, easy. You start planning your attack. Then the prey stretches, loosens up, gets ready to move. And some part of your brain, the part shaped by millions of years of evolution, screams at you. That thing isn't prey. That thing is about to start moving. And once it starts, it won't stop. Run, she demonstrated, raising her arms overhead in a long stretch. Half the counselors flinched. We don't even think about it anymore, Emma continued, lowering her arms. It's just what we do. Sit too long, we stretch. About to exercise, we stretch. Preparing for activity, we stretch. But to predator species, it's a threat display more effective than roaring or showing teeth. It says, I'm getting ready to hunt you now. High Arbiter Melkos looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Dr. Rhodes, you're describing your species as if you're the galaxy's apex predator. Yet you have no natural weapons, limited physical strength, and by all conventional measures should be prey. Should be, Emma agreed. But we're not. Want to know why? Because we cheat. Cheat? Melkos repeated. We use tools, make weapons, build traps, work in groups. But most importantly, we never give up. Ever. You know the human saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead? That's not a joke. That's lifestyle advice. She walked closer to the council seats, and I saw several representatives lean back involuntarily. Let me tell you about another human thing, Emma said. We call it spite. It's this beautiful, stupid emotion where we'll do something that hurts us, just to hurt someone else more. We've got records of humans walking hundreds of kilometers through lethal terrain to punch someone who insulted them. We've got stories of people spending decades plotting revenge for minor slights. Now imagine you're a predator, she continued. You attack a human. Maybe you win. Maybe you kill them. But their family? Their tribe? They remember. And they'll come looking for you. Not today. Maybe not this year. But they'll come. And when they do, they'll be ready. They'll have studied you. They'll know your habits, your territory, your weaknesses, and they won't stop until you're dead. This is insane, Brevik muttered. Completely insane. Yeah, we get that a lot, Emma said cheerfully. But here's the thing about humans being insane. We know we're insane. We write books about it, make movies, tell stories. We're fully aware that our species is absolutely bonkers by any reasonable standard. And we don't care. She turned to address the full council, her posture relaxed but somehow commanding. You want to know what category to put us in? Here's my recommendation. Don't. We don't fit your categories. We're not predators or prey. We're not aggressive or passive. We're humans. We're the species that looked at death and said, "Not today." We're the ones who saw impossible challenges and said, "Watch this." We're the idiots who strap ourselves to controlled explosions and call it space travel. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We turned the deadliest predators on our planet into pets that sleep in our beds. We looked at horses, prey animals, and decided to ride them into battle. We took plants that tried to poison us and bred them into food. We saw fire and said, "That's mine now." We found every corner of our planet, no matter how hostile, and moved there anyway. Emma's voice carried through the chamber, not loud, but impossible to ignore. So yeah, when we stretch, predators run. Because somewhere in their genetic memory, they remember what happened to the predators on Earth who didn't run. They're extinct. Every single species that tried to hunt humans seriously? Gone. Not because we were stronger or faster. Because we were too stubborn to die and too spiteful to forgive. She paused, letting that sink in. You want to classify us? Fine. Category 7. Persistent. Because we don't stop. Ever. Not when it's smart. Not when it's sane. Not when it's hopeless. We just keep going. That's what humans do. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Finally, Melkos spoke, his voice careful. Dr. Rhodes, are you threatening this council? Emma laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. What? No. Oh, stars. No. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just explaining why your predators react the way they do. We're not planning to hunt you guys. We're pretty friendly, actually. Love making friends. Absolutely terrible at making enemies, though. Why terrible? I asked. Because we never let it go, Emma said simply. Make friends with a human, we're loyal for life. Make an enemy? Same deal. We hold grudges like other species hold territory. Forever, and with extreme prejudice. She pulled out another data tablet. Want to hear about the Emu War? The what? Several counselors asked simultaneously. The Emu War, 1932. Australia. Humans versus emus, big flightless birds. The emus were eating crops, so the Australian government declared war. Actual war. On birds. Did you win? Gorthax asked, sounding genuinely interested despite himself. Nope, Emma said cheerfully. The emus won, decisively. But here's the thing. We still talk about it, nearly 100 years later, and we're still salty about losing to birds. We made movies, wrote books, created internet memes. We will never, ever forget that the emus beat us. That's petty, Counselor Thress observed. Extremely, Emma agreed. But that's humans. We're petty, spiteful, persistent, and we never forget. Good traits to have in a friend. Terrible traits to have in an enemy. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. So here's my advice for the council. Don't categorize us. Just accept that we're weird. Work with us. Trade with us. Be friends. We're actually great at friendship. We make alliances that last centuries. We'll share technology, culture, food, everything. But if you're thinking about being enemies? Emma's smile didn't fade, but something changed in her eyes. Remember the stretching. Remember what it means. It means we're getting ready to move. And once we start moving, we don't stop. High Arbiter Melkos was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What do humans want from the galactic community?" "Same thing everyone wants," Emma replied. "To be part of something bigger, to explore, to learn, to share. Maybe open some trade routes, exchange some recipes. We make excellent food. Also, we'd love to compare notes on medicine, technology, art. Humans are really into art." "That seems reasonable," Melkos admitted, sounding surprised. "We're reasonable people," Emma assured him. "Crazy, but reasonable. Like I said, we're great at making friends. The predator thing only kicks in if someone tries to hunt us. Then we get weird." "Weird how?" I asked, unable to help myself. Emma's grin widened. "Ever hear about the time a human spacecraft got damaged in deep space, and the crew jerry-rigged life support using duct tape and a prayer? Or the human who survived 3 months in Arctic conditions with no equipment? Or the one who fell out of an airplane without a parachute and lived? We're weird like that. Aggressively, persistently, annoyingly hard to kill." She shrugged, another gesture that made several counselors twitch. "So yeah, put us down as Category 7, humans. Special notation. Do not attempt to hunt, they take it personally. Otherwise, we're friendly. Bring snacks to first contact. We love snacks." The council session continued for another 3 hours, but the conclusion was never really in doubt. Humans would be granted provisional membership in the galactic community, with the understanding that they were a special case. Not predators, not prey, just humans. As I left the chamber that day, I passed by one of the viewing galleries. Marina Volkov was there, stretching again, preparing for her transport home. A group of Krell warriors walked by, saw her stretch, and immediately took a different corridor. I paused, watching her. She finished her stretch with a satisfied sigh, completely unaware of the fear she'd just inspired. Then she noticed me watching and waved, a friendly gesture. I waved back with 2 of my limbs, a greeting I'd practiced for human interaction. Maybe Emma Rhodes was right. Maybe we shouldn't try to categorize them. Maybe we should just accept that humans were humans, and that was its own category. After all, they were friendly, persistent, and really, really bad at being normal. But as I walked away, heading back to my office to file my report, I couldn't help but think about Emma's words, about persistence, about never stopping, about species that held grudges forever. And I thought, thank the ancients, we're going to be friends, because I really, really didn't want to find out what it was like to have humans as enemies. The council approved humanity's membership 2 cycles later. The vote was unanimous. Nobody wanted to be the species that said no.